Hi, friends. A warm good evening from India and a warm good morning, good afternoon to other participants from different parts of the globe. This is Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai, and we are going to be speaking about one of the very interesting models of Chanakya, which is called the Saptanga model, and how it can be applied for leadership. Yes, my dear friends, we are going live this time to teach one of the greatest models that Chanakya created for leadership called the Saptanga model. So before we go into the Saptanga model, let us try and understand Chanakya first. I'm sure all of you know about Chanakya, you heard about Chanakya, you read about Chanakya, and definitely Chanakya must have started influencing your thinking and your approach towards life. But it is my duty and responsibility to introduce you to Chanakya once again from a leadership perspective. A lot of people say that Chanakya was a political thinker, he was a teacher, he was an economist, he was a military expert, he was a person who created law and order in the society, and also he's known for his Kutaniti. There are many aspects of it. But let us not forget one very important thing about Chanakya, that he was a leadership guru. Yes, a guru of leadership. So his students, all of them went on to become leaders. Of course, the most important and the most famous leader is Chandragupta Maurya. Remember, C plus C is equal to C. Chanakya plus Chandragupta Maurya is equal to conquering the whole world. Yes, C plus C conquered the whole world, not only through military, but also through strategy. This life of Chanakya is very inspiring. And I'm sure all of you have got inspired already. So Chanakya was born in the 4th century BC, which is roughly 2,400 years ago from today. And he believed that leaders make everybody happy or unhappy. So you create a right leader for the development of the society and a happy and a prosperous country. So in the Arthashastra of Kautilya or Chanakya, we find a lot of leadership models, and Chanakya believes that everybody can be a leader. Of course, your qualities have to be tested, you have to be trained, and then you have to be given a leadership position. So Chanakya did that with Chandragupta Maurya and various other students of his. Chandragupta Maurya became the king or an emperor of what is called as a united India. And he became also the person whom Chanakya trained to become a Vijigishu. Vijigishu means becoming a world conqueror. Yes, Vijigishu, the one who wants to conquer the world. But remember, conquering doesn't mean killing. Conquering actually means taking the mind share and the heart share of a person. And how does a leader think to become a Vijigishu? So let me explain to you two concepts that is coming in the Arthashastra. Concept number one is called an ideal leader or Rajarishi. Yes, Chanakya's ideal leader is called as Rajarishi. And the second concept is to become a Rajarishi, you also need to understand the Saptanga model. Saptanga. That is what we're going to be listening today about Chanakya Saptanga for leadership. So if you want to be an ideal leader, a Rajarishi, you need to understand the Saptanga. And the Saptanga is what I'm going to be explaining now. All of you can see this board behind me. Yes, and you can see a very famous quote from the Arthashastra. It is written, Praja Sukhe Sukham Raknyaha. It is a sutra that comes in the first book and chapter number 19 of Arthashastra. You can refer to it. And I will read out the whole sutra in Sanskrit. This is only a part of it. It says, Praja Sukhe Sukham Raknyaha Prajanam Chehite Hitam. Yes. So, if the king is wanting to be happy, first he should make the Praja happy or the people happy. If people are happy, then the king is also happy. And if the people are actually getting all the benefits, then it is also beneficial to the king. Praja Sukhe Sukham Rajnya Prajanam Chehute Hitam. So this is the mantra or the leadership vision that Chanakya gives to the Rajarishi. Praja Sukhe Sukham Rajnah. Now, we will like to actually explain the Saptanga model for you. So what is the Saptanga model? Very simple. Let us understand and then go into detail. Saptanga. Saptanga means 7 is Sapta. Anga means parts. So Saptanga is actually 7 parts. 7 parts of what? So here is very clearly told by Chanakya, these are the 7 parts of a kingdom, and if a leader understands the Saptanga model, he will actually become an ideal leader, that is Rajarshi. So here is a story that goes, and in fact written in all my books. In fact, in Corporate Chanakya, my first book, which is currently celebrating its 10th year anniversary. I hope all of you read Corporate Chanakya, okay? It's going through its 10th anniversary. There's one chapter on Saptanga, and you can read that chapter. But what is important to know that the story is that when a student is confused and when the student goes to the teacher to get that confusion cleared, the teacher has got a responsibility to give the knowledge in pearls of wisdom, in little pearls, not explain too much theory. So Chandragupta and other students should go to Chanakya and say, what are you teaching us? We are teaching you Arthashastra or Rajniti. Oh, but tell me one thing, where to apply Rajniti? Because many of us, when we study in our schools or colleges, we have this big question, isn't it? That where is this theory going to be applied? And Chanakya would say, this theory will be applied when you become a king. You have to apply it in your kingdom. And if you apply this Saptanga model in your kingdom, you will become an ideal king. Naturally, the next question would be that what is this kingdom that I have to rule? Yes, can you explain that? Chanakya says, a kingdom is a mixture of 7 things, 7 elements. And when we have all these 7 things put together, and if everything is in the right measure, it actually becomes an ideal kingdom. So what are the 7 things or the 7 elements? Those are the Saptanga. And I would like to quote the sutra where Chanakya describes the Saptanga. It is Swami Amartya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitra Iti Prakritiya. I'll repeat it. Swami Amartya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakritiya. You can see it right behind. You can see it in my, the board that is, you can see all of us, this board. Yeah. So this is a Saptanga. Swami, Amartya, Janapada, Durga, Kosha, Danda, and Mitra. So a kingdom requires basically 7 things. And if the 7 things are in order, it's a great kingdom. But to make a great kingdom, you need to have first a great king guided by a great leadership guru or a teacher. So look at Chandragupta Maurya. He was guided by Chanakya, a leadership guru. So what are the 7 things? So let me explain to you first the meaning of all these 7 words, and then I'm going to explain all of them together. A kingdom requires an ideal king called as Swami. A Swami means a leader, a king. The first requirement of a good kingdom is a good leader, Swami. But can the Swami run it alone, the whole kingdom? No. He requires Amartya. Amartya are ministers. So king also requires good ministers. Swami, Amartya, Janapada. Janapada means citizens. Yes, you require good and happy citizens. So here is what, in a kingdom, you require people. Otherwise, what would a king and a minister do? Swami, Amartya, Janapada. Durga. What is Durga? Durga, during the olden days, were the power points or the places where the kings lived. It was a center. And the Durga means a fort. And in those days, it was fortified cities. If you still go to many of the places in India or across the globe, you will see the old forts. And without a fort, the king is not safe and the kingdom is not safe. Therefore, it is important to know that a good kingdom will also have good Durga, or I would say infrastructure, to protect the kingdom from the enemy attacks. Swami, Amartya, Janapada, Durga, Kosha. Kosha means treasury, finance. Without finance, how can your kingdom be strong? Your economic models, your GDP as we call in today's days, everything has been very, very good. Kosha, then comes Danda. Danda usually means rod, but in this case, the reference given is army. Okay, even the army requires a rod to be controlled. So you will see the army generals and all, they carry a rod, and that is something which is a symbol of power. So this rod actually is used for the army. So we require Danda, a strong army. And then finally, it requires Mitra. Mitra? Yes, friends, allies. So in a kingdom also you require friends and allies. So just reflect it back. For an ideal kingdom, you should have one first requirement, a Swami. Of course, it can be a Swamini also, because we have some great kingdoms where the women were the leaders. But along with the Swami, leader, you require a minister, king and the minister combination. Third, happy citizens. Swami, Amatya, Janapada. Fourth, good infrastructure or strong forts. Kosha. Yes, you require good finance and an overflowing treasury. Danda, yeah, strong army, and Mitra, strong allies. If all of them are in place, then it's a successful and an ideal kingdom. So that is Chanakya's Saptang model for leadership. Many times people used to wonder whether this is an old model, whether this is an ancient model, and does it have any relevance in our generation, the modern generation where we are living with technology. And let me tell you very proudly that this is not just an ancient model, but this is an eternal model. So it worked in the past and works today and will work in the future also. So how does it work? So we have to compare that with a modern day country also. So let us look at this example. Can we look at India as an example to understand the Saptanga model of leadership? Swami. So we have a leader at the top. As all of you know that the president of the country, especially in India, is the first citizen. Like in the state, like any state that you take in India, the governor is the first citizen. In the same way, the president is our leader. Of course, we also have the prime minister who runs the whole show. So the leader is important. But can the leader only run the whole kingdom? No, it requires ministers. So we have cabinet ministers, finance minister, home minister, and a lot of ministries that we have. So they are also important. And remember this, every Amatya is a leader by their own standards. Because imagine somebody who is holding a position of, let's say, sports ministry. So he can turn around the whole sports field. We recently received a few Olympic medals. Okay, we won Olympic medals, but the sports minister also has a role to play to create the infrastructure. Once they came back, met them, etc., etc. So a king with good ministers are very important in today's generation also. Swami, Amatya, Janapada. We got more than 130 crore Indians. Yes, so they have to be happy. Right from the basics of roti, kapda, makan, that is, food, clothing and shelter, we have to move up. And today people are demanding not just roti, kapda, makan, but we require to have good infrastructure, good telecom, etc. So that is also important. The people have to be happy. Swami, Amatya, Janapada, Durga. So we are having this great country with superb infrastructure getting built, the roads, the highways, the ports, the housing. I would go to one step further that not only we require good physical infrastructure, but we also require good digital infrastructure. Yeah, we require to have Wi-Fi connectivity wherever we go. That's why in many of the railway stations and public spaces there are free Wi-Fi is being provided. That's an ideal infrastructure that a country requires in a modern day generation, and that is Durga. Kosha. Yes, India has to achieve the highest level in its economy. So the $5 trillion economy is a vision, but at the same time, we should go on to make it maybe $10 trillion and upwards. Your GDP matters. So you have all of the policies getting worked at the government level. Yes, and that will make our country truly independent in the economic sense. Kosher. Danda, we are very proud to have the great Indian Army, the Navy and the Air Force, along with all the paramilitary forces, where we have a strong country within with its armed forces to face any problem from the outside. Interestingly, the Indian Army also helps out people in evacuation during the problem times also. So don't think that's only about the external. The army is always ready to get any solutions for internal problem also. And finally, Mitra, allies. Think about this. The United Nations has passed a resolution to accept 21st June as the International Yoga Day. You can't celebrate an International Yoga Day only by declaring it in India. So these allies who support us say, yes, let's go and celebrate and visualize a one day in a year where we can celebrate Yoga Day. So the allies are important. They help you in good times as well as bad times. So a country like this also helps in. So the Saptanga model also helps in our generation as a nation. The last example that I want to give you that the Saptanga model can be applied to any leadership. Yes, not only to political leadership, but remember Saptanga for any leadership. So think about it that you are going to an education institution like a school or a college or a university. So can you apply it there? Of course. So a Swami or a Swamini of an education institution is the principal. Amatyas are the professors, the teachers. Janapada, the students. Durga, the infrastructure. And today, because most of the classes are being done online, we actually find them online classes, which is digital infrastructure. Kosher, whatever funds is required to run the show, it could be sponsorship, it could be fees, it could be government grants, etc. Danda, the support staff, the admin, those people who keep up the whole infrastructure. Today, IT infrastructure also requires a support system. The technical guys, so that's a Danda. And Mitra, the principals associate with other principals, they have an association, they call guest lecturers, etc. So those are the Mitras who support the education institution. Finally, I want to also tell that this can be applied if you want to be a leader, let's say in the business space. If you want to be an entrepreneur and in that space you want to be a leader, you can actually apply the Saptanga model. How? So here is an example. So let's say you start a company of your own, a startup India to just wake up India. Yes, India has to come out and become a global giant. Suppose you're starting your own company. So you can be the Swami or the Swamini. Yes, that's Swami or Swamini. Second is Amatya. You'll require managers. You can't run the whole show alone. So yes, the different head of departments, the marketing head, the finance head, the IT head, the social media head, etc. becomes the Amatyas. Janapada. The third one is actually your clients and your customers. What is a business if it doesn't have clients and customers? Business starts with an idea, but leadership in business is converting that into products or services that the customers will buy. Customers should be happy. Praja sukhe sukham rakyah prajanam chahite hitam. So Janapada should be very happy. Your client should be very happy. Durga, infrastructure. So if you have a physical office space, that's important, a laptop, a Wi-Fi. Even in work from home, you require some infrastructure, isn't it? Good chairs and tables to sit comfortably and work throughout the day. If you're into manufacturing, then you have to have good, facilities. You should have good plants and machinery, the tools and equipments. So that Durga Kosha. You require finance. You require cash flows. So that's your financial success of the company. And then we have done your support team. Everybody may not be as intelligent to become a leader or a manager, but you still require the support team who will tell you what to do and what not to do. Your feet on street, your marketing guys, your sales guys, they're working very hard. So it's a vendor. And finally, Mitra, your consultants, your allies, your suppliers. So think about it. Every particular leader, even if he or she is a business leader, we need to understand the Saptanga model. So I like to close here by explaining the Saptanga model once again. Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakriteya. Okay, the Swami, a great leader with great Amatya, the minister, happy citizens, Janapada, Durga, good infrastructure, Kosha, very, very profitable financial models, Danda, a strong army, Okay, and finally, mitra, your allies, your relationship with others. So if everything is in place, you have an ideal kingdom, and you are an ideal king, whom we would call a Raj Rishi. I hope you understand this model. If you want to know more about it, definitely, you should read my book called Chanakya: 7 Secrets of Leadership, which I've co-written with D. Shivanandan, the ex-Director General of Maharashtra Police. But if you want to know more, there's a program coming up. You'll see all the details. We're going to be having a 5-day training program on the Saptang Model. You can see all the details later on. But yes, you should understand the Saptanga model and apply it in your life. So join us for the program whenever it is happening. We'll pass on the details. But as of now, I hope you understood the basic concepts and you'll try to understand it more and apply it in your lives. With that, the remaining few minutes that I have, I like to open out for questions. And I would request the questions to be moderated, and I like to answer them in the remaining few minutes that we have. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you, sir, for the amazing explanation. So we'll move to the questions. If you have any question, please type in the comment section and we'll take it. So, sir, I'm seeing a question that's kindly also talk about the daily routine of the king.
Thank you so much for this question. And Jagrat, it's a very interesting question. I expect all of you to be students of Chanakya. And if you have a pen and a paper, please write it down and you can read this part in Arthashastra. Again, it comes in book number 1, chapter number 19. It's called Raja Pranidhihi. What is the Raja Pranidhi? The daily activity of a king. Yes, in the book number 1, it's very clear, the full thing. What time the king should get up, what time the king should sleep, what is the activities you should do. And you'll be surprised. It's a very, very interesting model because it tells you that discipline is very important for a leader. Yes, daily timetable of a king. If you're not disciplined, you cannot be a leader. And if you're a leader, then you're surely to be disciplined. So discipline is very important. Now coming back, when you're a leader, you need to take rest. Okay, because that's very important. You cannot be working and become a workaholic. You should work very hard. But Chanakya says you should also work very smart. Yes, so resting is allowed. But remember one thing. If you rest too much, you rust. If you rest, you rust. Don't become lazy. So the Saptanga model is applied on the daily life of a king, the daily routine of a king. It's a very active and dynamic routine. You know what time the king is supposed to get up? 1:30 in the night. And one would wonder, 1:30 in the night? Are you sure that's the time I don't even go to sleep? Because I'm doing binge watching of the latest Netflix series. Friends, early to bed and early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. It's an old saying. So king is supposed to sleeping at 9 o'clock in the night and getting up at 1:30. That's enough. He'll be fresh. And of course, there is a small 1.5 hour window given in the afternoon. So if you look at it, you can sleep for 6 hours. And if you actually sleep for 6 hours, the remaining hours is full of activities. So from 1:30 onwards, you start to get information from the spies. You actually sit down, meditate. Of course, once the sun is up, the sun rises, he has to go. And the first activity is to look at the financial position of the country. Remember, Chanakya's first activity, once he leaves the personal chamber and goes to the Raja Darbar, is actually looking at the financial model. So he will have the first meeting with what we call as Kosha Dhyaksha. Kosha, Treasury, Adhyaksha, the in charge. In the modern day, we can call him a CFO, Chief Financial Officer. And then after having an understanding of what is the financial situation, he's become money conscious, not money minded. And then he starts working. Of course, he has the next meeting with the Praja, Raja Ka Darbar, and then meets everybody, discusses. Then he has correspondences, meetings with the Rajagurus, the Mantris. It's very, very hectic throughout the day, but breaks are allowed every 1.5 hours. And finally, in the evening, he has to relax, go for some activities, and then sleep at 9 o'clock. I have written the detail about the daily routine of a king in one of my books. It's called Chanakya and the Art of War. Yes, you can order the book online, Chanakya and the Art of War, very easily available. You can search for it on the Google. So Chanakya and the Art of War, there's a special chapter on the detailing of this daily routine of a king. Thank you so much for this wonderful question.
Thank you, sir, for answering. We'll move to the next question from Deepthi Pai ji. So she's asking, where do competitors come into picture uh, in the Saptang model?
I'm so glad you asked this particular question because Chanakya is smart. Okay, and Dipti, I'm so glad you're also smart. Because Chanakya says, apart from the Saptanga model, there are two more things that is important. And you'll be happy to know there is an eighth pillar. Okay, to Saptanga, there is an Ashtanga. And it is not given here. As you read the Arthashastra, it comes later on. So I'm glad I'm going to open out the eighth pillar secret for all of you. You know what is that missing link? What you rightly pointed out. It's the competition. And the eighth pillar of the Saptanga model is Shatru. Yes, along with the Shatru, when the king is able to handle strategically, you actually become a Vijigishu. You are right, enemy is not included, but everything about the Saptanga model is to win over the enemy. Isn't it that you require an army to defeat the enemy? So Shatru is there, but Shatru is somebody who is an external whom you have to defeat using the Saptanga. So you see at the end of it, you have the Shatru included, but later on. And there's one more thing, since you asked this, along with the Swami, you also require a Rajaguru. Again, it's not coming in the Saptanga model. So Raja, how do you know whether it's right or wrong, or he's taking the right decisions? That can only happen when you have the guidance of a mentor. So Chandragupta is a Swami, but the Guru of the Swami is Chanakya. In the same way, two things which are not included in the Saptanga model, but very important elements. One is the Rajaguru guiding the Raja, and the Shatru who has to be defeated to become a Vijigishu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So we'll move to the next question from Tushar. He's asking how to manage finance in newly opened business, how to differentiate between important and non-important expenses.
Very nice question. See, I have this particular suggestion to all startups. Okay, a startup is a three-stage journey. One is called startup phase, second is called maturity phase, and the third is called growth phase. So what is this phase? In the first phase, it generally takes around 3 years. So in the first 3 years, you don't even know what is important and not important. Many of the founders don't even take salaries for themselves. So where is the question of finances in the startup phase? Yes, there will be expenses. Suppose you have taken up an office, you have to pay people, you have to pay the rent, etc., etc. You have to look at the internet charges. So in the first phase, you don't really have a financial model. It's an experiment. You'll have to try and cut down. But yes, one of the very important thing about a startup is to make sure that you have cash flows. So who are clients buy your service and projects, they should also pay you, isn't it true? In a startup, it's all about experimenting about the expenses and also the income. After 3 years, you will come to know which is the expenses to be avoided and which is the expenses which are important. So if you have people, you need to pay them. If you have vendors, you need to pay them. At the same time, cash flow management, that is income, and expense management put together becomes the first stage of your business and startup. Second, it start maturing, and you have the right clients, you quote the right figures, and you get the deals done. Then you say, okay, now we are a matured company, and now you grow to the next level and become a global company. The first stage, it's small finance, but then later on it becomes matured finance, where you have to look at compliance, you have to look at a chartered accountant making your reports, audit reports, everything in time. You have to file the returns. That's maturity phase. Growth is like, come on, let's go now. We have conquered the country. Now let's go and conquer the world. There you have global, interactions. You have investors. You come in and you list your company in various institutions, etc. So the startup, yes, it takes a little bit of a time, but as the company grows and matures, it's a different level. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. As we are running out of time, we'll take one last question. Yes. So, Kiran is asking, sir, in one of your posts, you said that the leader must be able to connect with people at an emotional and intellectual level. How can a leader achieve that?
So the Sanskrit word for achieving both emotional and intellectual connection is called as Sahahridaya. Saha means together, Hridaya means heart. When my heart and your heart connects, then you're actually becoming a great leader. And from this combination comes a word called as Suhrita. Sahridaya Suhrita. Suhrita means friend. So a leader should be friendly. Very important. Think about it. When you're a leader, you speak like a boss and give orders and instructions. Nobody likes it. But come down to their level, speak to them in a friendly manner and tell them, believe me, heart to heart connection happens. At the same time, you would understand that you have to connect intellectually. For that, the leader himself should be intellectual. He should do a lot of reading and studying. See, at one level, you can be an inspiring leader. But the second level, along with being an inspiring leader, you have to be an intellectual leader. Today, you look at all the big companies across the globe. The leaders, the CEOs, the chairmen are highly educated, highly read, highly informed. So you need to have those intellectual understanding. Chanakya calls this as the development of one of the important skills. It's called as Anvikshiki for a leader. Anvikshiki is, philosophy, intellectual thinking, strategic thinking. So if you have a matured and a developed intellect, you can also help and mature the intellect of others. So connect from the heart and work with the head. Connect from the heart, Sahridaya, and work with the head, that is Anvikshiki. These two can be developed by continuous practice and study. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. So we'll be ending the live after this. So if you have any last words for our audience.
I would just say that enjoy life, study Chanakya, become smart and strategic. Okay, so a lot of people don't understand these two words. They know I'm working very hard, I'm working very hard. Work hard, but work smart. And don't just have a dream, have a strategy to achieve your dream. So S plus S is what Chanakya should be. Strategy along with smartness. Of course, the Saptang Model will help you. And as I told you, we're going to have this 5-day training program very soon. So those who are interested, please do join us and learn in detail. But remember, at the end of everything, you should be happy inside and outside. That is what I call truly a successful person. Be happy and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm sure we'll be doing more of this live soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.